So we have just started recording our meeting, and we are waiting on our labor representatives from Rojava to join us. As we wait, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Emre. I think we can go ahead with this, giving a very brief overview of Rojava, just in case we have people here who are not very familiar with the situation there. And I think we'll definitely be joined by Sinam Mohammed, who is the official representative of the Autonomous Administration of Northeast Syria in DC. And hopefully our friends from Rojava unions will also join us at some point. I mean, there are a lot of factors. It could be also as banal as internet and electricity, which goes in and out all the time. So you can't really rely on the availability of the technology for our friends on the ground. But I think we will just go ahead and we'll definitely hear from Sinam Mohammed. So I'll give a very brief overview. I'm sure a lot of you are already familiar, but for those of you who are not, I'll start with a map of Northeast Syria. So when we talk about Rojava, or the Autonomous Administration of Northeast Syria, as it is officially called, we refer to this area marked in yellow on this map, which borders in the north with Turkey and in the east with Iraq. And the Autonomous Administration of Northeast Syria is a relatively new political entity. It emerged out of the Syrian civil war that broke out in 2011. And it started out as a project led by the Kurdish movement that was already organizing in Syria prior to the Arab Spring. The Kurds, you probably know, are an ethnic minority in this part of the world. They are an ethnic minority in Syria, and as such, they have been oppressed in many ways by the Syrian state for decades. They face, unfortunately, a similar situation in other countries of the region where they constitute a minority, namely Turkey, Iraq, and Iran. So, but when the Syrian civil war began, the Kurdish movement in Syria was able to take advantage of the withdrawal of the Syrian government's troops from that area, northern Syria, and they started building a new political system there that is guided by the movement's philosophy, that's based on feminism, ethnic and religious pluralism, direct or participatory democracy, and sustainable economy. And you can tell it's a very ambitious project to pursue in a constant war zone. And indeed, soon after they declared the establishment of the Autonomous Administration, they came under attack by ISIS. And I'm sure all of you have heard. Kurds fought ISIS heroically, and they formed an alliance with other ethnic and religious groups in the region, such as Arabs, Armenians, Assyrians. It's a very diverse region. And eventually they defeated ISIS territorially with help of the international coalition against ISIS. Sorry, I'm actually communicating with our friend in Rojava.
Would you like me to continue for a minute?
That's
fine. You got it?
Yeah, thank you. So what's happening there now? Right now, the Autonomous Administration is home to around 5 million people, possibly more, and they're occupying around a third of the Syrian territory, and they seek their autonomy, the de facto autonomy, to be recognized by the Syrian government as part of a new federated Syria, as part of a post-Civil War settlement, and we can talk about how successful they have been so far in that endeavor a bit later. Now, why we interested in this region? You may have heard the developments there have been called a revolution, and it's indeed a revolution. The region has seen tremendous transformations of its political and social structures over the course of a decade. On many fronts. I was there last year. I had a big honor to spend 3 months in Northeast Syria and to witness many of these transformations firsthand. And there are, of course, a lot of things to mention, but to be brief, there has been an incredible advancement in terms of women's rights. And you can guess it's a very conservative part of the world. And yet the administration has been able to secure and open up spaces for women in all spheres of social life, politics, military economy, etc. In terms of ethnic and religious pluralism that I mentioned already, they're trying to build a new form of pluralistic governance where all ethnic and religious groups that inhabit this region come together to work together in a peaceful manner, where they all have equal rights and exercise autonomy over their collective affairs. And given this region's long history of ethnic and religious tensions and conflicts, this has a huge potential, not just for the entire Syria, but for the Middle East and even beyond. Lastly, what I would like to mention, the autonomous administration is experimenting with an innovative political system that is based on the principle of direct or participatory democracy, however you want to call that. And the main building block of this new system they're building is a commune. Namely, it's a decision-making mechanism on a neighborhood or village level that allows a local community to come together and decide on the issues concerning their collective life. And then these communes send delegates to higher levels of decision-making process on city, district, regional level. And thus power flows from bottom up and not from up to bottom, as it is usually the case with representative democracy. So what this system does is it empowers people to take control over their lives on a daily basis, not just once in several years when we go to vote. So this is really something remarkable that we can learn a lot from and get inspired. And of course, a lot of other things are happening that I would like us to talk about, but I want to finish with the major threats that the autonomous administration is currently facing. Emre has already mentioned the region has been under constant attacks by the Turkish state. In particular, the Turkish state has been repressing its own Kurdish population within its own borders for a century now, and they have been doing everything they can to also prevent the existence of any autonomous Kurdish entity on its southern border in Syria. Turkey has invaded the region twice since 2018. It is now occupying parts of northern Syria. And there in those occupied territories, it has maintained a rule that's comparable to ISIS, if not worse. Since the last invasion in 2019 that I think all of you remember, Trump green-lighted, he gave permission to Turkish President Erdogan to invade. Since then, Turkey has waged what is basically a low-intensity warfare on the region by using drones and heavy artillery practically on a daily basis, specifically assassinating military and political leaders of the autonomous administration in the broad light in civilian areas, and also intentionally targeting civilians and civilian infrastructure to basically make life hell for the people who are there and who support the autonomous administration. Unfortunately, the United States is directly complicit in Turkey's war on northeast Syria and Kurds more broadly, and this is something we can discuss later on. I don't want to take up more time, and I have to respond to our contact from a representative of Rojava unions. I hope they're joining us shortly. And now I'll hand it over to David van Deusen, who is currently president of Vermont AFL-CIO. Thanks so much, David, for helping us organize this event and for your long-term commitment to the cause of Rojava.
Thank you, in solidarity. Why should organized labor in the United States be actively in support of the revolution in Rojava? Not since 1936, not since the Spanish Civil War, has a people rose up in arms, not just to fight back against oppression, not just to establish their own self-determination, and not just with a long-term ideal of establishing a liberatory, free society, but one today. This is what the struggle is in Rojava. We are talking about direct participatory democracy. Let's think about that for a minute. Economic equity for all, equal rights and equal access to power for all, men and women, different ethnicities, multicultural, but with direct participatory democracy. This is a foundational challenge to the very notion of the world order. This is a foundational challenge to the very concepts of capitalist order across the globe. If Rojava was not in the Middle East, if Rojava was an area in Europe or North America, this would be front page news in the paper every single day, year in, year out, while the struggle is on. But because of Western bias in the media, because it does not fit their world narrative, because it's a challenge to the status quo, we hear about this foundational revolution through forums like this. So as organized labor, just as we struggle in the United States to make sure our members in the working class as a whole has power, just as we struggle to make sure that people have access to things like healthcare, to basic rights, to democratic access to change their society for the better. Just as we do that here, we need to be able to reach our hands out in solidarity and act in support of those who, like us, are fighting for working class people, the bottom up in other parts of the world. And that's exactly what is going on in Rojava today. And this is why it is imperative, just like in 1936 when the unions got behind the Republican cause in Spain, just like then, it is imperative for us as union leaders to educate our members on this issue, on this serious revolution going on in the other part of the world. And it's not just good enough for us to educate, and it's not just good enough for us to understand what's happening. We also have to take concrete steps to support them. Let's not forget that during the Spanish Civil War, the longshoremen, the union in North America, sent fighters to go and fight against fascism in Spain. All right. Now, here in Vermont, I am very proud of the fact that our State Labor Council, through the leadership of the United Slate, has gone to our rank and file and passed a resolution, not only recognizing the autonomous government in Rojava, but we also have guaranteed that when American fighters go over there, should they come back and volunteer and fight with the YPG and the YPJ, when they come back, we will get them union jobs and support them. A few years back, we were absolutely honored to support a returning American fighter who risked his life for this very cause of liberty and hooked him up with an IBEW union job, gave him a place to live for 3 months, and paid his way in life for 3 months. And that is the absolute least we can do as a labor movement, to support folks that are defending these very ideals that we hold to our core with guns against one of the largest armies in the world right now in Turkey, which of course is a NATO country. So I absolutely implore all the union leaders on this panel discussion here with us today to not just listen to what is going on in Rojava, not just to express interest or support for it here and now, but to go back to your central labor councils, to go back to your locals, to go back to your internationals and demand that US organized labor actively get behind supporting the revolution. Because if we could break the chain of oppression in Syria, if we could break the chain of oppression in the Middle East with this revolution, then that will start a cascade effect of showing the way, not just there, but also across the globe in Africa, in Europe, in North America, and everywhere for that matter. This is the most important fight. This is the most important revolution that we have witnessed in our lifetimes. And the scope of this should not be forgotten at any point. This is truly foundational and fundamental. So I am absolutely honored to be able to be here today. I am absolutely pleased to do anything we can to support our friends in Rojava. And I ask that you do the same. And with that, I will stop for now. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I believe Sinem Mohammed is on the call with us now. Sinem, can you say a few words? Having a few technical issues. Sinem didn't plan to be with us here today.
Are you hearing me now?
We are, Sinem.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. It's my pleasure to be with you today. And even it's just out of the sudden, you know, I have been asked to join you because I have a lot of issues today at home. And so I don't know, I mean, in the beginning, how did you start? What is the thing that you are talking about? But let me, first of all, thank you all the people in the United States and all over Europe who were supporting the Rojava revolution. As you know, what's going on in the northeast Syria and in Rojava, it is a unique model. It's a model that inspiring the Middle East, actually, people, how to work in this century now. As you know, the Middle East have been suffered a lot of tension, a lot of conflicts, and still it's going on. We have a tyranny, we have an authoritarian system, we have the victims are the minorities like Kurdish people or the other people in the world, in the region. So all of this make the Middle East unstable. So in order to work together, to bring the stability, peace, and prosperity to the people in the Middle East, within the Kurdish people, of course, together, we have to do a lot of things. Yeah, please, you can come. So in order to make all these things happen, we are in the Middle East as a Kurd starting this initiative as a project. The project of brotherhood existence of all the people who is living together. As you know, the Middle East is a diverse. It's not one nation, not one religion. So what is the solution now to have this happen together? It is only project, which is the project of the democratic nation. To create all the nation together, to make them all this diverse in the Middle East, in Syria, in the region, which is, I mean, like Iraq, Turkey, Syria, even in all the regional countries. In order to bring all these stabilities, we have to work together. You can't deny any diverse, any component who is living in the region. You cannot deny that. And if you deny it, that doesn't mean they are not existing. We are existing and we are struggling and to get our right, not only the Kurdish right, but the right of the other people. The right of the other people in the region. So when we need democracy, that means we say democracy is really an essential need for the people in the Middle East, for the Kurds, even for the Arabs. Do you think that the Arabs, they are very, happy in this system? No. For the Syriac, for the Armenian, for the Turk, for everyone. So how to live together? This is the issue. And this is the problem that we are having now, and we are struggling and fighting together always. People who doesn't agree to this project, the brotherhood existence of the project. For instance, Turkey, they know that if they accept it, the authoritarian would be, not anymore there. So they want to have their power. To stay in power, they have to protect their nationalistic project, which is not the way to solve the problem. So for that, we have a lot of challenges in Rojava and Northeast Syria for our project. One of the challenges is that the nationalistic, chauvinists, racist people, they are against this project. The other one who is against this project is the Islamism. I'm not telling about the Islam, the Muslim people, no, the Islamism, the radical, the extremist who is fighting this model and the unique model of Rojava. And you see how ISIS, they attack our region, how they wanted to destroy all the region, mainly the Kurdish people. And still, but we could defeat ISIS militarily, geographically, of course, with the help of a global coalition, thanks for them. But still, the ideology of the extremism, the ideology of these people, the radical people, are still there. It will not go military. You can't defeat the ideology by weapon, militarily, you can't. So for that, we are working on a model to educate our people. Education is very important, not only for the Kurds. We have to educate our partnership, who are the Arabs, who are the Syrian, who are the Turk, who are the Persian, whoever. So if we educate that people who are living together, so they can accept such a project. Otherwise, they will be fighting against you. And we don't want to fight against anyone. We are not the people in the region as a Kurd. We are never asked for war, even though they called us as a very, brave warriors. We are brave soldiers and whatever. Why? Because we are, from all our life, we are fighting against the people who is attacking us. We never attack anybody, never. From the beginning of Rojava Revolution 2011, we didn't attack Turkey. We are not a threat to the Turkish state. We never been a threat to Turkey, but Turkey that attacked us. In 2012, they sent their proxy groups into Ras Al Ain Sarikaniye. And then they sent the other group, like in the name of Free Syrian Army, unfortunately. In Afrin, also the same is going on. Then they send ISIS and so on. So all the proxies forces or the militias that they send to us in order to destroy such a model, a democratic model, a model that is unique in the region, they don't want it to be there because it threatens their power in the region. So for that, everyone, they want to keep their power, they want to keep their chair, so they will be against such a project. But I'm sure that we can together with the people of Rojava, with the Kurds, with the Arabs, with the Syrian Christians, with the Armenian, with the Turkish people, all together, if we come together, we can have strengthened this model. And we can, at the end, do something. but it is with the help of you, not only in the region, the people who is in America, the people who are in Europe, the people everywhere. I think we have to to raise their voice, to say, this is the model which is a good model for the Middle East to survive. Look at the Middle East since 2011. What happened? Revolution, as they say, the Arab Spring, which I don't agree with this name. They say the Arab Spring. I call it the People Spring. Not only the Arab need the spring, all the people in the Middle East need the spring. What happened? Those who are in the power, in the authorities, they were against it and tried since 2011 and trying to oppose the people. And the end, what happened in Syria now? We have now thousands of the people, of radical extremist people entered Syria with ISIS and the Qaeda and so on. We have many people who are attacking our region in northeast Syria. Syria has been divided now with many territories, one controlled by regime, Syrian government, the other controlled by the northwest in Idlib, which controlled by al-Nusra, let us say Al-Qaeda, HTS, all together the same, which have the Islamic nation, the Islamic state, let us say there. And the other region under the control of Turkey, which is Afrin, Jarablus, Silbab, and all this under the control of Turkey, and with some group, malicious group, which called under the name of the Free Syrian Army or Syrian National Army, who are really attacking the Kurdish people. They are attacking everyone who is Kurds in the region. And they don't want to have a stability in the region because they are getting use of that. They are getting dollars, millions of dollars they got in their pocket. And what did they do? They destroyed their country. Because they didn't have actually a project, a political project for the future of Syria. This is the difference between us as in northeast Syria, as the revolution of Rojava, and between the other people. In the beginning, we have a project. Our project depends or based on the coexistence between all the components living in the region. So we should not deny anyone. We should not ignore any component, even if they are very small component or minorities. We should not do it. In the region we used to have before, we used to have, in the Middle East, we used to have Syriac, Assyrian, Kurds, Arab, Armenian, Jewish people. Now, after this war, majority of the Christian people, they left Syria. Majority, I can say. Whoever now left, there are few of the people that are working with us. And we told them, we will protect you, please don't leave the Middle East. We can't imagine the Middle East without the Christians. And Middle East is the cradle of the civilization and all the religions. So we should not be one color only. So for that they stayed. They stayed there. But most of them, they left the Middle East. The Jewish people in Syria, they left. In Iraq, they left, So in order to, let's look at Israel now. What do we have there? A conflict always going on. Regardless who is good, who is right or not. But for that, I say the project which we provided now, it's a project, it is a solution for all the Middle East problem. To end the conflict, to end this fighting among the people, the fighting with the Kurd and Turkish people. How long the Kurdish people and the Turkish people, they were fighting together? Do you remember? Not only since PKK came, no, it was before that. Sheikh Said and Qadim and many people, they started, the revolution in in Deusen and so on. So there was conflict between the Kurd and Turkish people. But why? Nobody even point at it and see where is the issue. Why are these people fighting in such a place in the earth, on the earth there? Why they are fighting together? Nobody want to solve such a problem because it's the issue of power also, to stay in the power. That's the one. So for that, I think now, all the politicians, maybe in America or the other, people in the other countries, they realized that if we leave these people fighting together, no one of them will end the other. None the Kurd will be ended, neither the Arabs or the Turkish will be ended. Never. No one can end the others. And you know what happened now. So since how many years we are fighting in Turkey, for instance, the Kurdish people? Now they are having, many years. What happened? We couldn't reach any solution because they are denying you. They want either to kill you, you are not there, either to be the same color. And this is what's not true. So for that, the dialogue, the negotiation, the peaceful political policy and the process should be there. Only dialogue will end all this problem in the Middle East. Only dialogue. We can sit together, we can accept each other, we can say what do we need, what they need also, what do we want for this state, let us say in Turkey or in Syria. Let me talk about Syria. We tried with the Syrian regime many times as a negotiation or a dialogue. Of no use. And now again, I'm asking, after the normalization with the Arab countries, with the regime, what's going on? Okay, let us have a dialogue. Let us have, because we are a part of Syria. We are part of this place. We need to have a dialogue in order to reach a solution, a peaceful solution together. To end this war, to end this suffering of the Syrian people for about 13 years. The people are starving in Syria. I know, even in the regime, the regime-controlled area, they are starving. In Rojava, we have the besiege on Rojava. Recently, the border in KRG also, has been closed, unfortunately. Always with the political issues, only for the political issues. Yeah. So so I don't know if if you have any question, I would be happy to answer. I can stop here, and thank you so much.
Sinem, thank you very much for your contribution. At the beginning, you mentioned you weren't sure about the exact nature of the meeting, so allow me to give you some information on the meeting. We share your emphasis on dialogue, both for the solution of the Syrian civil war and for achieving peace and stability in the region, but also in terms of our own activities. So we wanted to bring together representatives from TEVDEM in Rojava, different union representatives, with different union representatives here in the US. We have our comrades from the Vermont State Labor Council here. And we were worried that a TEVDEM representative who was scheduled to join wasn't able to join precisely because of the environment you describe now with the recent closure of the KRG. There's this rising tensions, threat of imminent attack by Turkey. So we thought a TEVDEM representative wasn't going to make, so we reached out to you. But surprisingly, luckily, a TEVDEM representative did make it. So so now we can, but we also have Katie, right? Anya, Katie from Vermont
Yes, we
State
do.
Council. So should we go back and forth,
Perhaps
Katie, and then TEVDEM, or
Thinking perhaps that them first. first, just in case we lose internet again.
Oh yeah, and the translation, right?
And we also have
Interpretation.
translation pending, yeah. And then we can
Yeah.
hear from
So
Kate.
if it,
Thank you so much.
thank you, Hava Sinem. And now we can move with our representative from TEVDEM and the interpretation. Just a quick reminder again for those who may have joined later, for translation, make sure you choose English through the globe sign at the bottom center of your page. Next to share screen, there you'll see a globe sign. When you click on it, choose English so that when interpretation is provided, you hear not the original Kurdish, but the translated English. اولنا جتردم بخير هاتن دنگه من ته
هوال عيب نهدا مادي دنگه متيتا
اری دنگه ویته دنگه ویته does translation work too? We haven't started yet, right?
Unfortunately, as he is now connected through WhatsApp, I will not be able to do the simultaneous translation. It has to be consecutive. So we have to first, and I have to translate afterwards.
Okay, thank you. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We appreciate your interpretation.
کرم که حوالی عید دست به خفتن خوابه که لپشتی دمه که بسکنه در کاز ورگره بکن باشه کرم که
تمام.
Just 1 second. So if the translation, sorry.
مقرات تبدمي جو مكاريبو دنابا فيش ورشيدا يا جو سوريا جتها زار ويازدها دس بكر مكاريبو وكا تفجر ام يكتي ودين خوا جواكا سبيل ام واناكي بريخستر بكن داغو مكاربن ما في واناكي بدس بخن شخوا دنابا جمارة جو يكتين ودين هاتنا اباكرين لباكرو رجرات سوريا دا بيستو نهي كتي سركا جو هاتنا اباكرين جناب واناجي كي امكارنك بنكا بجميرن يعني بين سر زمان يكتيا بجيشكا يكتيا ادكارا يكتيا جودكارا يكتيا ماموستا يكتيا بازرگانا وهر وكدن يعني جماري واناكي بيستونه يكتينا جو ام هولدان الدن جو ام قاربن فان يكتيا ناكي فان جواكا سفيل ام قاربن بريخستر بكن شكونها نها مناكي بيجن اندامي يكتيا مي كتكارا جو بهزارانا وجماري واناكي زيدي 40,000 اندامي قول سر استا باكرو جات سوريا دا يا اندامي كتيا كتارانا وشخوا
از حتى بالترجمه بكم تباشي بردوام بكيكودبه
تمام.
First of all, I would like to salute you on behalf of TEVDEM, and I would like to give you some information about our civil society organizations, which we consider the trade unions to be a part of the civil society. Since 2011, since the foundation of TEVDEM, we have established and established several civil society organizations, and for the time being, we have 29 trade unions, including trade unions of the doctors, the laborers, the farmers, and even the trade persons. For example, the biggest one of them are the trade union of the laborers with 42,000 of members in entire region of north and eastern Syria. Kerem ke berdewamik.
يعني جمارة أندامي كتكارا معني سر زمان يعني 40,000 أندامي كتيا كتكارا هيا لسر أصلا معقول بلاد السوريا دا وشكوا أندامي هابيني دا يعني دقي 6,000 حرب أندام إيفي كتيا دا جو شاوا كارن يعني با أندامي قوا بريخستن بكن كاربن ما في واناكي بدس بخن جبوكو كاربن جواكا قوا خدمت جواكا خور بكن جواكا كي كاربن جواكا كي آزاد وديمقراس بافرينن يكتين ما يجو بجواكا وجداينا حميد بشي جواكا با دندري با يكتيا با خدقرن و ام إلو جو بركي يعني تجربة يكمينا روجتا نافیندا بۆ مەکاری بۆ باکوور وڵاتە سووریایدا ئەم جواکە سڤیل ئەم برێخستن بکەن و vê qade hanakê vê qadê em her beşekî gokaribê xizmeta em wek tev demê de îro pir hem aliyê parastinê de hem aliyê projeyên got evekîtiyê me pêşkêş dikin li ser li gor emkaniyat û derfetê xwe li ser asta bakur Miletê Sûriyeyê de.
And this summer, we are expecting to reach almost 60,000 members of these labor unions. And these are the unions not only fighting or struggling for their rights, but they are also in very close contact with the other civil society organizations, because they are all working together for a democratic and pluralistic and participatory society. And this is also very first experience, not only in Syria, but in entire Middle East, that we are organizing civil society, and they are also finding their space and organizing themselves, interacting with each other, and not limiting themselves on one particular issue, but the entire society. That's why they are developing their projects, and they are also supporting each other in every part of the life. So that's the main purpose of reaching out more people and organizing every part of society under the label, under the flag of different society organizations, including trade unions. Kerem.
شخونا وك كتير كتارة ده يعني دماغو هناك جواناكي دكارين زحمة كارو خباطي خودكين أم وك صنديقة كتارة ده دماغو هناك بيندار شيء بنتملي كتارة ده جا دماغو هناك جواناكي جانا خودشدن شخوا هم آلية تندرستي واناكي جكي وك كتير كتارة دقريس الملي خوا ودماغو هناك جواناكي جكي نخوش بقول هناك جواناكي تشيسا دلوفانيا خوجكي كتير كتارة الكارية بمرباطي كتارة دكي جملة كيف زانم كر جملة دين بجكي شخوا إيرو بصد هزارة ود باكور ولاد سوريا دا ود بستان فكرينا هر دبستانكي هر مكونكي قود باكور ولاد سوريا دا جياندكي بكردي خوا بعربي خوا بخريستياني خوا وهر يك جواناكي بزمان خود خويني شاگرتين ما جاستا يكمين دبستانا سرطاي وحتى بيمانجه وحتى زاننجه وإيرو دباكور ولاد سوريا دا هتنا بكرين أبحمش جيكي أمكانيات ودرفتين هاري إلى في أستيجيكي وكتفدمي أم وقت كما مستعدة والشاگردي خوا درت كمل خودي كارن بيدفين وآلافين دبستانا لغور درفتي ودنا بدستين خدا أم بيدا بدكن.
Brilliant. And the trade unions are also responsible for the health care of their members, including their families, and in case of accidents, to provide them with necessary medical care. And in case of any death, at the time of providing their duties, they are also supporting the families afterwards. So it's not only about it's also ensuring that they all get their rights, including health care and also other social insurances. And in the entire region, there are hundreds of schools where the teachers teach, and TEVDEM is also responsible to provide the students with the material, but also for the teachers who are also members of these labor organizations. And
Perhaps,
the
Katie, can go ahead while we're
structure
waiting
of the
for
society can also
TEVDEM.
be observed in the structure of the trade unions, because the society is composed of Kurdish-speaking Arabic, Armenian, Assyrian, Muslim, and Christians, and all the members are also representing these different parts of the society. And this is also the very first time that the schools, the students or the pupils, the children can learn their mother tongue, Kurdish, Arabic, Assyrian, or Armenian from primary school until university level. And the TEVDEM is providing within its own abilities with all the materials and the schools and also the salaries of the teachers to make this education happen in the region according to the needs of the society itself. Bele Kerem.
انها وكا باكون ولاد سوريا اذا كاتكاري ما دنابا تشمبرك دنا باكون ولاد سوريا بكشتي دنابا تشمبرك يعني هناك اصلنجيه خدك انك اصلنجيه دفي مريده ديك شانتن صدي ده نسبه ده يعني بيكار دمينن ابيا كمين يا دومين
What are we waiting for?
قال لك كاتكار دما قودشنا سر كاريخوا وبتايبت يعني آلي باجار غونيزيكي سينوري تركارنا براسي بتهاجكي او كاتكاري ما يجو جانا خوش دستن يجو بريندار دبن جالي دولة تركيا يباغو قول واناكي جندرمي واناكي كاتكاري ما براسي دراشينن بچکان زانیم کر اصلنگی هری مزنا یا دومین دا يعني نا كاتكاري ما كارن زيدا كار بكن دوي مليدا هر سر زبيه خو هر سر كاري خو اصلا كي هر مزن ام دوي مليدا ام دبراسي تك شاندن يا دومين دجيكي يعني بر حياه دبستاني ما غوزارو كما برحات رحات نكان هر دبستاني خو ما مستني كان هر دبستانا غو شاغرتي خو پرورده بكن جبرغو دوله تركيا بر اصلا ج ما مستوى وزارو كما تشدكي دا غو دبستاني ما بين گرتن و زارو که ما پرورده خوی دایی که نستینن.
بله. The entire region, north and eastern Syria, is surrounded different countries, and Turkey is constantly targeting the region. And because of this surrounding the circumstances, we cannot get enough materials for the workers. So there is around 10% of unemployment in the region because of the lack of the material and from other equipments and the machinery that we need from abroad. And secondly, especially the cities on the Turkish borders, security is a very big, serious issue because these places are constantly being targeted by the Turkish army with artilleries or cannons or even the drone attacks, and there are so many people, including the farmers working on their land, are being killed by the Turkish army. So security is a big concern, and people are scared to go on their land for agricultural purposes, as well as the working conditions for the others who are working hard for the infrastructure in the region are also being targeted by the Turkish army. On the other hand, due to security reasons, our schools are shut down very often for the security of the children, but as well as for the teachers. This is also another security concern that affecting the everyday life of the people, especially the life of the students, children, farmers, laborers, and teachers in the area, so that the children also are deprived of their right to education because of Turkish attacks. بله فرمایید.
شوا بشی کتکارا بشی یکمین دا بشی موسمینا گود هاوینا دا بشی هناك يعني رولا ويناك سركه هيا بشي ويناك بشي دومين بشي جو تكلي ويناك بسازين نبنا توير هنا وبشي سيامين دا جو بشكي لبهاتني هيا جو قريبو دنابا كتكارا دا او كيماسين جو نابرا وادا تشيدبن قريبن اولدار دن جو او بزيكي جو بولا درباس من چارا سربكن يا كمين ويا دومينشكي باليه دادي با غريتايا بشي هناك بشي كتكارانا وبفير دي هناك كارن خوري خستن بكن كارن بي دي في خوي PDB خوا بيك بينن كاربن شخوا وكا سنديقا شوا كارن ما في باك كاري خوا بباريزن و PDB كار جوارا ببينن جبرجو روشا جو إيرو باكون جات سوريا تدا جان كي روشا كي براسي دنا بشاركي ديا وبتايبت جكي هم علي سينور قرتن دور پیش کرنا باكور وجرات سوريا إذا سنوي قرتنا وانا كي سنوري قلتي لسر باكور ولاد سوريا دغه هتنا قرتن هم جمله علي كردستان با هم جمله عراقي با هم علي رجيم بعث با هم علي تركبا ابيا كمين يا يمين جكي يعني زياده اصلانجيه قوم دكشين او درفتو امكانيات منين بو امكاربن زياده او بروجين برفره و ام بوك بروجيا ام كيش بكن جكاري خورا.
بله. The structure of the trade union is first of all providing an opportunity for employment. And most of the employments are suffering because, as we mentioned, that the region is surrounded by the hostile countries, including Turkey, and the doors, the border gates to the Kurdistan region in Iraq is also shut down, and Iraqi border as well. And the south is the regime itself. That's why we have so many different projects for the infrastructure of the region, but we cannot get the necessary, neither the machinery nor the materials for the constructions, which also prevents people getting employed. If we could start the projects, there will be more people employed. So one of the parts of the trade union is trying to create employment for the people. And second part is about the interrelation with the international organizations. And the third one is a conciliation. If the people who are the members have any problems among themselves, they have their own committee to solve their problems. And the fourth one is the justice system. If there's any problem, together with the employer or the employment or at the time of work, so the Justice Department is defending the rights of the members of these unions against those who might have caused any injustice to the employed or employees. بله كلام كده.
يعني منك هاري بكبر بتشاف اسكارم بير مسار زمان انها ذكرتنا معبره سيمال كذا جو زيدي 3000 كتكاري ما جو براسي انها بكارمانا جبركو بشتي ذكرتنا فيدري 3000 كتكاري ما دوي معبري دكار ذكرن دمان هذا ابري چند روجا او معبر هذا قرتن يعني زراره هاري مزن قول لكتكاري ما بوزانم كره زيدي 3000 مال باجي كي ايرو براسي يعني قو زراره هري مصن قول الفاكتكاري ما بوزانم كره جبر بنا كده يعني هولدا ام خصك ما يعني ج سازين نامنتوي ج كسين ما ج كسين ازادي خواز كسين ديمقراط خواز و درفتك ج ملت مي كتكاري مي باكورات سوريا هي بكرن زاني يعني الان معبره سيماركا او معبره وليد او معبره وتل كوتشر ويجو معبره يعني دري قلت سر علي باكورات سوريا دا نبرا ما ونبرا عراق دا او دريا مخابن قرتيها معبره سيماركا جي داوود هذا قرتن يعني زرار هاري مزن لكتكاري ما البشكي هاري مزن بوجبا كده كتكار تمشي دكت.
And an example is a very obvious example, the border gate Semalka in between Syrian Kurdistan and Iraqi Kurdistan was recently shut down. Just that door employed 3,000 per people. So which means since the border gate is shut down, 3,000 people are now unemployed, which eventually affects 30,000 families who are living on that border gate, and therefore we need more gates for the families as well as for the laborers. Therefore, for example, Semalka is between Iraqi Kurdistan and the region, but there is also Tilkocher and Welid border gates on the Iraqi side, and they're also shut down. And these are also affecting the directly livelihood of the workers who are employed at the doors, but also because of the goods and also materials eventually affect the life of the people living in the region. Therefore, we need international solidarity, but also international pressure on Iraq to open the gate for the people living in the region. وكذا كلام كي حوالي
كونها بقرتنا دريم سيمالكا قد دما داويدا شكونها يعني او درفتين كتكارا قد لباكور جات سوريا دا راسي درفتين كار برزعيبوا جبرجو آلاف جو درباسي باكور جات سوريا دبون وكتكار بكار ذكرن ودرفتين كار البيشاو هناك دبابو ومكاريبو بان كتكاري هناك بريخستن بكين بكار جوار ببينن ايو براسي بزحمتي كي هاري مازن وطندا بيشتي قرتنا دريه سيمالكا زحمتي كده جيان دكن وبرانيا وانا كي إيرو براسي زيدا أو كاري ولو البر بتشاف ناب دستيوادا بركيما.
As we mentioned, the region is very dependent on the goods coming from Semalka Gate, which is closed recently. And it's not only the goods for the people in the market, but also the materials for the projects, which also create employment for thousands of people. Since the shutdown of the gate, now we have so many people who are unemployed, and the closing or shutting down the border gates means actually creating unemployment. Therefore, people are forced to have daily jobs, and they are concerned about future and concerned about feeding their families. Beli, كلامك.
شوانها بريما وكا هابيني تيد موسمي مي آلي باجاري ميجو الباكوريات السورية دا أمبر موسمي هابيني بدتشن شوانها يعني وكا بلارين قول بيشا مدى أم كاربن أم بش أم كاربن دبي موسمي دا وكا كاري هناكي بكاربينن هم يعني بش أم كاربن هم وناكي بكاربينن هم جيكي وناكي كاربن يدبيين خوش جاني بردوام بكن بتايبت جيكي البيشامة موسم هيا يعني دي جنم هيا جا هيا هن آلافين چاندنية هنا نها أم برب دي موسمي بدشن هي معنا جو أم كاربن باكتاري هناكي دالي موسمي دا أم وناكي بش بخنا نبا كاردا أما راسي يعني أصلا جيجو أم دكشينن جبرجو برزبين ولاتيان قال ما السرانسري السينوري بآلية تركادا بر بالترس نزيك دبن ترساوانا كيجيكو إيريشن دولة تركيا إيدا بتشكل خوا إيريشي وابكن يعني دابرا دمك دجي بريداربون شد بي شهادات شد بي كوشتن شد بي نوا كتاري مدى أما جيولوجيكي أب يعني نها حاضريما وقت تبقى جبكة ديمقراط وأمكارن فان كوميتي خوا أم داخنا آلية بشي مسلمين.
Beli. And in summer is a time of harvester for the region, especially for the lentil, wheat, and other products. And those people who have been unemployed because of the lack of the opportunities and because of the shutting down the border gates, now we are trying to channelize them in the harvesting. So there will be a temporary solution until the end of the summer, but at least they will provide them with their livelihood. But another concern is about security, which I mentioned earlier. Many of those pieces of lands where we have agriculture are on the Turkish border, and the people who are working on their lands, on the farmers, on the farming areas, are very often targeted by the Turkish army. So we have examples of being shot, wounded, even killed by the hands of the Turkish army. So although we are providing them with some employment, we also are concerned about their security in case of a Turkish attacks. But for the time being, what we can do, we have different committees for employing these people who have been unemployed because of the lack of the doors and the gates to be employed in the harvesting in the region. Beli. هذا عيد.
يعني شو دنابا بيعرف فيها هذا الساعة باكل ورجعت سوريا إذا قمت دجان دكن وبتايبت بشتي دور كشكرنا ما حتى عليها بجيكي إيرو بروجين ما يقول هذا نبات استمدى قوم دوازن الكاري هم بكتاري خورا بكن كاربن كتاري خوا بريخستن بكن يكجواناكي منها بيشاما ذكرنا درمان خانه كي بنابي كتاري ما يا كمين قوم كاربن جوارا درمان جوارا بيدا بكن و يعني كتاري ما ومالباطي وانا كاربن تداويا خوا درماني خوا بكرن يا كمين يا دو يمين دا ام خوسكا من ها فيتامين دا قو ام مشفيكي نخوشخانه كي بنابي كتكارا ام فكن يستر اصلا بكل جات سوريا دا قوم كاربن فان درفتي هناكي ام هناكي الكاري بكتكاري خوا بكن انك دا عليا ابوريدا برگو دوید دمیده دابوریکی نکی دابوریکی ئاستەنگایی دەرباس دەکەن ئەمجی وەکە تەفدە مێدا وەک ئالیکاری وەک یەکێتیە مای کەتکارێن باکووریات سووریایدا پرۆژێ وەناکی ئینها دوێ دەمێدا هەردوو پرۆژێ منە خۆستەکە ئەمە هەیە بۆ ئەم بام هەیە پێشامەدا ئەم بام پرۆژێ وەناکی پێک بێن.
Despite all the difficulties that we face, despite all the border gates are being shut down and we being surrounded by the hostile countries, we still have different projects. And two main projects are opening a pharmacy, like a cooperative pharmacy for the laborers and workers. And secondly, establishing a hospital for the laborers. These will be very difficult, but next month we are planning to start in cooperation with the trade unions of laborers and also TAV them to provide the families of the workers with a pharmacy and also with hospital where they can have their free medical care that they need. بله كلام كوكيدن
شوال يعني دبشي دندا گو دالیری قسمی دا گو کتکاری ما بکشتی د پرورده دربار دبن گو پرورده میجی که دالی مسلکی دنا گو چاوا کاربن هم آلی خوا بریخستن بکن ما فی خوا بدست بخن همیش چاوا کاربن کارو باری خوا دندروی فابریکا و دندروی کاری گو دنا با دستی وادا بسپور بن دوی کاری دا و کاربن ما فی خوشی که بدست بخن.
And on the other hand, as the union of the laborers and together with the TEVDEM, we have training programs for the members. One of them is the vocational training for their wherever they work, at the factory or at the workshops they work, how they can do better job. But secondly, it's also training about unionizations, about how to build trade unions, how are the rights of the workers, what are the proper ways to follow and demand these rights, and also use the legal remedies in case if it is necessary. So two different parts of trainings, one is vocational, other one is about the trade unions. Bele.
يعني شوا يعني كتكار يقول باكورات سوريا دا بشي هري زيدايا بو كتكارن بو اف بشي هنا كده براسي جو تكبسر مليا وانا كده ابكرنا فيو ابكرنا ولات وابكرنا ولات وهم بارسنا هم بس بارسنا اخا باكورات سوريا دا بدستي خوا بدستي فان كتكاري هنا كده وإلو شورشة بكل جهة سوريا ده آراميك دجي وجو مكاريبو إلو دندري بكل جهة سوريا ده بقهرمانية فكتكاري هنا كده جو مكاريبو بارسنا وهناك بكن وأم حياة في أصلا هناك جو 12 سال الشورشة سوري درباسبون وأف كتكاري ما قريبون دندروی صندوقه کتیا کتکارنا خبری خسر بکن پراسنا خوب بکن براسی بشه گو هری زیدا گو هزا شورشت که بسر میلیونه کدا کتکارن.
When we look at the majority of the population in Rojava, the great majority of population is actually composed of laborers and workers. And the last 12 years, since the beginning of the revolution, the laborers, the workers carried out the most difficult tasks in this time. And thanks to their labor, thanks to their efforts, that we could organize the self-defense, and also we could reconstruct the region and construct the infrastructure. So it is also our duty to look after our laborers and look after our workers, and together with them organize ourselves for better futures, because we are really thankful for their legendary and heroic work that they did and carried out last 12 years, and thanks to their efforts that we came to these certain days and survived those days. بله تو خواهی پرسش تا بکن یا نه؟ وقتی دو چیزی که ما بله. بله.
شكوا يعني ما في كتكارة الباكورجات السورية ده شكوا باراستيا الجور رزقنا من كتكارين جيهاني كيف دقارن هالساعة قوا هالساعة جو كتكاري ما فابريقا وكاريجون بريبة دبن شكوا إجماري ودم جميري وناكي هالساعة والجور قانون وكيفاني نابلتوي كيف دقارن وخبري خصم دقارن.
And at last, I would like to also say the international standards for workers and laborers. We follow those rules. For example, working hours are 8 hours per day in the factories or in the workshops, and also their rights for any social security and the health insurance are also protected under the law. And as we said, we are following the international standards and trying to provide them with all the within our capacity with these rights, and they all have the right to organize themselves, becomes members, and also demand their rights. So if you have any questions, I will be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Heval Eid from Tevdem at Rojava. Galaxy Passport Juvera. We have next up Katie from AFL-CIO. Oh, sorry for the delay today. We've had some technical difficulties and such, but we're glad to have you, and the floor is all yours. Thank you, Katie.
I'm sorry, can we have any questions for Eid in case we lose the connection?
Oh, Jalil, can you ask him if he can stay with us for a little bit longer? Katie will speak for just...
he's happy to stay. It's just because of the technical issues in case we lose him.
Well,
my humble opinion, sorry, I didn't want to impose that.
Yeah, we do want to hear from Katie first. Katie will be brief.
Okay.
Katie Harris is the Vice President of Vermont AFL-CIO. Thanks so much, Katie, for joining us today.
And thank you. I'm very glad to be here. Good afternoon, comrades. Today, I want to delve into the powerful and transformative role of women in the Rojava Revolution and the YPJ. The Rojava Revolution, situated in northeastern Syria, serves as a revolutionary inspiration for those of us who champion gender equality and women's empowerment. In the Middle East, patriarchal structures have long suppressed women's voices and curtailed their rights. Yet the Rojava Revolution boldly challenges these oppressive norms by promoting radical gender equality and empowering women to actively shape their own destinies. Rooted in the principles of democratic confederalism, the Rojava Revolution embraces grassroots democracy, self-governance, and gender equality. Women occupy equal seats in political bodies, actively influencing policies, laws, and institutions. It is through this revolutionary vision that women emerge as leaders and catalysts for change. The YPJ, established in 2013, stands as the all-female armed wing of the People's Protection Units. These brave women play a pivotal role in defending Rojava against reactionary forces and securing the gains of the revolution. Their participation ensures that women are not passive recipients, but active agents in shaping the future of their society. However, their contributions extend beyond the battlefield. Women in the YPJ lead campaigns for education, healthcare, and social services, challenging the oppressive systems that have marginalized women for far too long. They actively engage in community building, establishing women's cooperatives and autonomous councils that transform traditional power structures and dismantle deeply ingrained gender roles. Through their tireless efforts, women in the Rojava Revolution and the YPJ become living embodiments of resistance against patriarchy and capitalism. As we reflect on the achievements of the Rojava Revolution and the YPJ, we must also recognize that the struggle for gender equality extends beyond the borders of Rojava. It is a call to action that resonates within our own communities, including here in Vermont and throughout the United States. We must continue to prioritize women's issues within our labor movement as we face a rise in fascist ideologies here in the United States. In 2022, the Vermont State Labor Council adopted a powerful resolution affirming our support for reproductive justice and abortion rights. We recognize that reproductive autonomy is a fundamental human right and an essential component of dismantling the capitalist patriarchy. Together, we can build a labor movement where gender equality is not just an aspiration, but a fundamental reality. A movement where women are celebrated as leaders, where their voices are heard and respected, and where their empowerment is intricately linked with the success and progress of the entire international working class. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We were supposed to have more women joining us from Rojava, but unfortunately, again, for all the technical reasons, as well as all the external pressures on the region, we only had 8. But thank you so much, Katie, for outlining all the inspiring progress that the autonomous administration has done so far and continues to do on that front. Yes, now we have some time left for Q&A. If people have questions for our comrade in Rojava or for our friends from Vermont, you can raise your hand electronically. Or, okay, I see Vasek.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Yes. Yeah, I'm Vasek. I'm ex-YPG volunteer 2018. I'm very interested in the economic model of Rojava. I'd like to address my question to the Havals, maybe from Tevdem. They are present. Perhaps Sina Mohammed. Is that okay? Yes. Okay. Right. So I'm quite interested in the money situation. Right. So when we were paid there, for instance, we received envelopes with sometimes with fresh Syrian pounds that you could see weren't in circulation. So since Rojava hasn't got a central bank, and the central bank is in Damascus, then that money must be printed in Damascus, right, under regime control. So I was just wondering how, if Rojava doesn't control its own monetary policy, right, the supply of pounds and so on, and then it's also at the mercy of import problems, right? So and also as the Syrian pound has gone down, has weakened, and also the import supply has gone down. So those costs have gone up because I think the imports have to be paid in dollars, perhaps, or can they be paid in Syrian pounds? So as the Syrian pound weakens, the imports become extremely costly. And then I believe that the cooperative economy only makes about 1%, right? So you have the cooperatives adjacent to their communes, but this part of the cooperative or sharing economy probably makes only about 1% of the Rojava economy. And the rest of the people, especially refugees and migrants and so on, are at the mercy of the free market. So I was just wondering if anyone has insight into the workings of the economic councils in AANES, in the economics commissions, how they balance this very precarious situation, especially price controls, right?
I'm sorry.
There's a lot of
Sorry. If you could wrap up your question because we want to leave time for others. Jalil, do we still have 8 on the phone?
Yes, he is still here.
Would you like to translate the question briefly?
Yes, sure. أولا أيتنجم تيتا. بله در پرسه که اشتره تکرین درباره پره کل روجاوا تی بکارانیش هوا کم زنن روجاوا پره وشواتونه هم پره نه دسته رژیم بکارتینن و انگو همو چاپ کرنا پره دسته رژیم ایده دوایی کی آبوریا روجاواج نه دکبه انگو دمینه بخت رژیمه ایجا ام بیجن تشته گونج در و تینن هن پره وان بچه $1 عددن یان پره کو تی چواد به یان دوی وارد کارو خباته کی و هی جبو پره یعنی او مثلا پره اون چوا چاره سر دکن کرم
شخوا ام وكا لروجافا و باكو روجافا سوريا ده حيان هاجي كي يعني عملا سوريا جبرقو ام وكا ولاتيكي سورينا حيان هاجي كي وكا روجافا عملا ويناكينينا ام عملا سوريا كارتيرين ام جيكي يعني بري قرتنا معبرة سيمار كادا انك معبر بكريبون هم كردستان عراقي دا هم دا لي رجيم بعض دا انك بكري انك معبر بكريبون يعني داري سر روجافا بكريبون يعني بازرگان انك آلافين بيدفين جياني وكا خوارني وكا تشتي ليكرني وكا تشتي الكتريكي وانا كده تشبه دفيه بو جقرد هذا خوستن براسي جدار بدهات يعني دا لي سنورا ترباش تبو اما دانو ستاندنا آلي دراوي بآلية سوري ديا يعني حيان هاجكي بفيرنجيا هناك باندورا هناك لسر ملتي مدبي جبرقو عملا سوري بر لوازة بر كتيا يعني همبري $، براسي ابنا جيكي باندورا كي هاري جران لسر كتكاري ما لسر استا باكون جات سوريا دكي.
We are a part of Syria, and therefore we have been using Syrian lira from the very beginning. And we don't have any other initiative to create anything else. And before the shutting down the international borders, we have been using for the international trade, we have been using also Syrian money. Of course, when it was converted to dollars, Syrian lira was very weak, and the money was not enough to be able to afford the dollar-based materials for construction, for electricity, or for other in infrastructure. But devaluation is also affecting the life of everyone in Syria, but we are still using the Syrian lira, and for international purposes we are also using dollars, but there is no other initiative or no other project to change or create any other currency for the region.
Emre, perhaps you would like to add anything, since your research focuses precisely cooperatives and new cooperative economy there?
Sure. Let me chime in. It is true that the cooperative economy makes up a small minority of the overall economy, and part of it is, part of the lack of growth there can be explained by the ongoing war and embargo, but in the meanwhile, I wouldn't quite agree that the people and the immigrants are left to the mercy of the free market. There are regular price interventions, so it is a regulated market, unlike the markets in the West. On top of that, Aborigine do have their own distribution centers, production distribution centers, and they do introduce basic necessity products at levels cheaper than the market prices. So various, both central intervention, but also, introduction of cheaper products by Abori-owned companies. So a variety of methods are used to make sure people, are not affected by this devaluation as much and have access. And there aren't orphanages or homeless shelters like we find in the West, precisely because there are these measures and networks that ensure where people are not left to the mercy of the market.
Thank you so much. Let's see if anyone else has any questions.
I'd like to add, oh, I'm sorry, I think Flint has his hand up. I'll defer to him, but I do have a question in the queue.
Flint, is that an applause or a question?
No, it's a question since we have someone from TABDIM on the ground. I'd like if they'd like to explain the brief history of what happened with the taxi driver strike that happened in Rojava and the implementation of public transit. And also a couple of years ago, there was an issue with the bakery shutting down because of the price of imports for grains and how the autonomous administration handled that issue.
حالا پرسک هیت درباره او جه گنمین یعنی چندنی ال روجاوا مبهیست بو چند سال بره کیمبونا گنم هبو و نانوا او جه کنان چه دکرن تیرا خو آروان پیدا ندکرن ایجا روبریا خواستر او کیمبونا آردو و آروان چوا چاره سر کر و کیمبونا تشتین خورکی ده اون چوا دکن یعنی
شخوا يعني نهاد دما إيصال دا يعني شخوا بارانا قول لروجافا وباكرو جاد سويا دا بارانا يكي بر باشبو وهم جيكي بشر جي بشير دنجيكي يجو جيناتوريا وانا كي اي افيها بون يعني قريبون كلمه خوا جاي خوا هن يعني الاوي يجو چاندني خوي قريبون قريبون افدل بشكي جملات اف جديده اما بقشتي دا برانا ايصال بر باشبو وايصال مسمي ايصال حيان هاجيكي باشا وزيدجيكي يعني زيدي ملتي مرجيكي ووري همج علي غنم همج علي جا همج علي مسكا همج علي كموني همج علي كزبره يعني حميد شاندني جو إلو لروجافا باكل سوريا دا براسي دروشكي حيانها نورمال ديا حازري وقت تبدا ميجيكي بحمر ندي خدا يعني عزيه قول بو باراستنا فيزا دي هناك كريا يعني صالي قول درباس بويدا برشوات الجماعه هم جاليه الدولة تركيا بجيكي وهم جاليه شتين جو اف شتين ترور يجو جو دخواستن جو ابوليا باكوريات سوريا يدبر بخن برشوات شكرن اما ايصال برحازيه مجرهنا هم جاليه او اطفاياتي افي هم جاليه او باراستنا وينا كده هم جاليه كوميني جو هر كوميني كي درينجي جغرافيا خدا بو قريب جغرافيا زاده بو دري جغرافيا في كوميني هذا يعني باريزين كر وهم كاري ماجيكي يعني دنابا في كاري هنا كدنا بو ام هيفيت كن يعني بو كاري ما ملتي ما راحت كاربي راجي في مسمي خوي بو ايصال دا شوا صاري بو درباس بو تجيكي راستا امنك قدام كده ام دا استنجيا غنم وادا ام درباس بول اما وكاري بريا خسر كاريبو دريا تكلي خوي دربرا جو هم تكلي مي دربرا جو بين دولتين بروبيرا هابو زانم كرد درياوارا مكاريبو ام غنم وناكي ام جور ام كاربن درباسي باكرو لاتسويا بكن وملتي ما زياده نكتا اصلا قايده دو دميدا ما درباس كرزاني.
Okay. The agriculture in the region is very dependent on the natural rain. And this year, thank God, it was a good year that we had enough rain. And on the other hand, we also had enough generators and electricity for the irrigation systems. So we are really expecting good harvest this year, which will be wheat, sesame, chickpeas, or cumin, or any other kinds of the agriculture that people are. So they will get good harvest. But on the other hand, we are also preparing ourselves. Before the harvest, as we experienced previous years, our farms were targeted both by the Islamist gangsters, also Turkish government. They were burning down our harvests. And this year we have prepared ourselves for both defense, and also if we have this firefighting system, the engines and all the other preparations are carried out by the administrative autonomous administration, and there are communes who are in charge of this, and then they are looking after the product, because previous years they wanted to destroy the economy of Rojava, which is basically based on the agriculture, but also make the people starve. So this year we are prepared, we are better prepared, and the previous years, although we had some difficulties, thanks to our international relations, we could bring some basic nutrition materials from abroad. But as we said, we are expecting good harvest this year, and we are also prepared against any attacks from the Islamists or from the Turkish government.
Thank you, thank you. Next, we have Debbie up, I believe. Debbie, would you?
There may have been somebody before me. I'm not sure, but.
I think Dave wants to go last.
Okay, great. I have a question for our wonderful guest from TEVDEM, but first I wanted to say thank you to everybody for these amazing, really superb presentations. I wanted to ask a question that in a way might follow up a little bit on Flint's question about the taxi strike, but is a little bit more of a theoretical question, although it's something that has interested me for a long time. And it has to do with the relationship between unions and the unusually strong, directly democratic associations, the communes, basically the structure of direct democracy within Rojava. And what I wanted to ask about is what could happen. We obviously want to see very strong labor, organized labor, but the popular assemblies are also extremely important. And I was curious whether anybody has given thought or anticipated what could happen should those two structures come into conflict with each other. Like, just, this is a purely, hypothetical example, but say a union said, okay, we really need to build a hospital for our labor force in this zone. And say a popular, one of the assemblies in the region said, well, we don't think that's actually a priority right now because whatever, we have a hospital nearby or something else, and we want to do something else. How does TEVDEM anticipate that kind of negotiation working out in this kind of directly democratic atmosphere of Rojava? Thank you.
آره پرسکردن هیچ بوده مگاوا بریج بحثاوی کردن روجاوا از باور دکم گربه که شوفرین تاکسیج سایقین تاکسیج چه بود ایجا امدبینن لروجاوا او بريخستن بونا كتكار وكاركران خورته وجالية دندجي دناف جواكي دجي بريخستن بونا كخورت هي تدي او ديمقراطيكو كومون هنه تنه برسكه ام فرازي دكن اگر روجكي دناف برا ام بيجن يكتين كتكار وكاركران و دناف برا كومونا ده ام بيجن آلوزي اكتر كبن تميناك اكتا تگوت ام دخوازن جبو اندام خو نخوشخانه که چه بکن لی اگر کمون را بیجن نه نخوشخانه که تیره هر کسی دکن نحوجین نخوشخانه که چه کن دوی وارد اگر لحف نکرنک دنابرا کمون و ام بیجن یکیتین کتکارا دا چه به اون وی که چاوا چاره سر دکن جبا که هر دو جیر تیره خو به قوتن و به هیزن
شكوا يعني كتكار كيتيا كتكارا اري راستا بيداينا صنديقه خمكر اما نافا وينك ديجيكي اندامي كومينا خويا يعني الكيجا تاخيبي الكيجا غونديبي او كتكاري هناك يجيكي دنافا كومينا خودا جيكي جه دغري وكاري خود ورد جيكي بكره ابيا كمين يا دومين دا مناكي بيجن كتكار برزقنامي وانا لقول رزقنامه خود هفدقرن كومين جيكي كومين ومجالس ما او جيكي رزقنامي وانا كي انا ودر الجور رزقنامه خوات بكرين ودنا كاردا هردو تحف تمام دكن جبركو كومين داي بجواكي با و بشي جواكي او جيري قسمدكي كتكارجكي بشكي جرينجن هي هاري جرين قد نابا قال مدى خبري خستن وخبري بدبن جبر بنا كده هردو هف تمام دكن دماغو برسكريكا كدنا برا وادا تركبي قوميتي مي لبهاتني هنا هم دنابا كتيا مي كتكارا دهنا وهم جكي دنابا كومينيا دهنا وهردو بهبرة نبات ترسيقي بهبرة كانوا خباطة خودك يعني جبر بنا كده بهبرة تشنا بجيب بهبرة تشنا جيب رياري جبر بنا كده يعني آليات تنسيقي نابرا وادا بربلندا وبهبرة تشنا جيب رياري ده جبر بنا كده برسكريك زيدت نابرا وادا درناكبت هف تمام كن
We are talking about the trade unions. All the members of the trade unions are also members of the communes. Wherever they live, in the neighborhood, in the village, or in the town, they are also members of the commune. So they are also influential in the communes. But on the other hand, both trade unions and the communes, they have their regulations. They have certain area of work, and then they move within the framework of these regulations. However, they are not designed to be rivals. So in case of any dispute between a trade union and the communes, both organs, both structures, they have an organ for the reconciliation. And these reconciliation bodies are in coordination with each other. As we said, if it happens, these conciliation bodies can come and discuss and find a solution, because they're both part of the society and they're not designed to be rivals, but to complete each other. And it can be done through the coordination body of reconciliation under the framework of each organization.
Thank you. That's a very informative answer. I don't know that we have anything similar in place here in the United States. So it's very, very educational to think about that relationship in that way. Thank you for that.
To complement
لأمريكا بيكاتنا كوساتنا لو خوش فكرينا جوج بوشار سريان تنسيقا كنا برا يكتيا كتكاران وكومينادا تشيبوي دسخوش.
شو أمجيكي وكا تبقى جواكا ديمقراط وكا صنديقية كتكارا أم سباسيا واتكن وأم هيبيدارن جو ديكلي ما وكا كتكارن باكورات سوريا دا وكتكارن أمريكا دا ديكلي ما دروجة بيش دا برفراتر تشيبن وشون هاتن نبرا مدى تشيبن.
تنشا دبمينا باكي برسين رجتلها بس تنويات ترجمة بكم. And Riyad also would like to thank you for the organizing this event, and they would love to develop our relationship with the laborers and workers in North America, and we will very much like to host you here as well in Rojava. But until then, we would like to continue our relationship and support each other by any means we can.
Thank you. We have Dave up next. Before we have Dave's question, I'd like to make a quick point to complement Haval's point about the relationship between the sort of grassroots local governance communes and councils and have them like organized labor. When my colleagues and I were researching about the pandemic response in Rojava, we found that the nearly 13,000 teachers all across Rojava belonging to the teachers union were also members of their local communes and were the assigned education sort of spokesperson of their local communes council. So not only they are automatically members, depending on their expertise inside the local commune, they, if it's like health co-spokesperson, education co-spokesperson, they have a sort of like assigned roles inside the communes, which makes it easier to address such possible moments of conflict of interest even before they emerge, because they're not completely separate bodies. They are interconnected and in constant communication with one another. So that was another example of the relationship between local governance and organized labor. Dave, you had a question, no?
Yes. So first of all, clearly the struggle for establishing a direct participatory democracy with economic equity in Rojava is not just the fight for the folks over there. That's the fight we need to be engaged here in the United States and around the world in as well. We in Vermont, our state labor council, as part of our platform, is to build on our town meeting direct democracy foundation, which we're somewhat unique in Vermont that we have that other states don't, but to expand that out to create a town meeting based statewide referendum system to further democratically empower people. So I'm thrilled to hear about what's going on with the revolution in Rojava, and recognizing that we're on record publicly encouraging folks, Americans, union members, working class people, to volunteer for the YPG and the YPJ and engage in the fight just as their fight is our fight. I know there's many other ways that we in the West can provide solidarity. So my question is this: how can we, the trade union movement in North America, in the Western world, how can we provide meaningful solidarity to the revolution right now?
Valeria, پرسێک هەیە دەبێژن یەکش ئەندامین سندقەیەن لەبێ دەرێ دەبێژە ئەم سندقەیەن لە باکووری ئەمریکای یانجی سندقەیەن سەرانسەری جیهانێ ئەم چاوا دکارن باوایەکی واتەدار پشکریا شۆرەشا لە باکووری ڕۆژهەڵاتی سووریە بکەن ئەنگۆ شتێک دەستێمە بێت چیە یاژی هون بەندا چنە یاژی ئەم دکارن چ بکەن ji بۆ پشکریدایینا شۆرەشا لە ڕۆژاڤە.
شخوا دەستێکی دا یعنی ئەم کێف خۆشن بۆ وەم وەک سندیقایên Rojava باکوور ڕۆژهەڵاتی سووریایدا بۆ تێکیلیما تەنسیقاما بە کەتکارên ئەمریکی رە چێ ببن براستی جبەرگۆ هەم ژێک ژێ پێدیڤیما هەنە سەرپێهاتی وە بۆ هەم تەجریبی واناکێ بەرفەڕە هەنە ئەمکار بن جواناکێ سوود بگرن یا یەکەمین ئەڤنا ژمەرە پڕ گرنگە بۆ ئەمکار بن میناکێ واناکێ ئەم باکوور ڕۆژهەڵاتی سووریادا ئەم پێک بێنن یا دویەمین دا براستی پێدیڤیما هەمە ملادا هەم دا ئالیێ ئابووریدا ئەم داستەنگیدا ئەم ژیان دەکەن هەمژی ئالیێ دۆرپێشکردنێ دە بۆ دوێ دەمێدا دەماگۆنها ئەم تێدا ژیان دەکەن بۆ باکوور ڕۆژهەڵاتی سووریادا و ڕۆژاڤا دۆرپێشکردنێکی دەیە بۆ زێدە ئەو دەرفەتێن کار و بارێ بۆ پێشای کەتکاری ما زێدە نینە بڕاستیم کرد و ئەم خۆستەکە مەژێکی کەتکاری مەی ئەمریکی هەیە گۆم ئالیێ ڕاگەاندنێدا کاربێ زێدە ڕۆلێ بدێ سندیقایên باکوور ڕۆژهەڵاتی سووریایدا و پڕ باش بێ و درۆژێ پێش دەگۆم کار بن کەمە ناوا تەنسیقێدا پێدیڤیên بۆ ژمەرە بێ خۆستێن ئەم کار بن ناوا تێکیلیەدا ئەم وان خۆستەکێکی هەناکێ ئەم بوارە پار بکەن.
As I mentioned, we really appreciate these kind of events that we get together and listen to each other. So this is a very good opportunity. And with trade unions in Rojava, as well as in the North America or in Europe, we need to exchange experiences. And we are really convinced that you have good experiences, good ideas that can also help us in Rojava. And Rojava will be a space for those ideas to be implemented. So we would like to exchange ideas and learn from each other. Of course, we have different problems. We have economical problems. As I mentioned, Rojava is under a blockade. We are surrounded by hostile countries, but it's also very important for us to be in touch and to be in a network with all other trade unions. And maybe you can be our voice and reach out other organizations in different places in your region or in Europe and get in touch and then show solidarity. That will mean a lot for us.
Thank you so much. There is a long question by Debbie for Dave or Katie. If we have time, Dave and Katie, what do you think? Do we have a extra couple minutes to?
Sure. Happy to answer any question you have.
Okay, so I guess the question is if there is time about the different forms that solidarity from American labor can take during times of strife for Rojava. In addition to things like local sponsoring Americans returning from Rojava for jobs, is there a possibility within organized labor for advocacy with our US representatives and senators? Can organized labor play a role in advocating and educating them so that they don't support legislation that would be harmful to Rojava? Just making it short.
Sure, and I could be really brief on that. I would welcome, and I believe that Katie would be in agreement as our executive vice president, any request from the Rojava trade unions or their autonomous government to help facilitate any meetings that we could try to help get with Senators Bernie Sanders and Welsh or Representative Becca Bryant to Congress. Larger outside of Vermont, there's a bit of a chicken and the egg. I think it's number one needs to be to have local unions and state labor councils clearly understand what's at stake in the revolution and why they should actively support it. And once that's achieved, and ideally for the national AFL-CIO in DC to ultimately also agree, then there'd be more room for advocacy with political figures in different states and in our capital. So perhaps that's a conversation we could continue offline after this meeting, but the offer is opened. I feel like that kind of political support is the absolute minimum we could do when we have trade unionists, farmers, and regular people defending the revolution with the force of arms against aggressors on all sides.
Thank you. So that was actually a good segue to what we want to close the meeting with. We drafted a resolution in consultation with our friends from Vermont AFL-CIO that union folks who are present today could possibly take back to their unions and try to pass it in a modified form. This is just a suggestion of what you could possibly ask the US government to do to support Rojava. As I mentioned before, the United States is directly complicit with Turkey's war on Northeast Syria. So we do actually have, some responsibility here and also some potential to shape US policy and to at least prevent our government from continuing to sell weapons to Turkey, providing all types of military and financial aid, and condoning illegal aggressions against this region and illegal occupation that is ongoing right now. So I just pasted the draft resolution in the chat. If you have any other ideas for any form of solidarity that your union could do, for example, to invite our friends from unions in Rojava to give a talk at your union, we could organize that, or if you would be up for arranging a phone bank for your members, for your union members to call their representatives, senators, etc., and demand that the United States stop its complicity with Turkey's war on Northeast Syria and Kurds. And we will send this draft also in a follow-up email. And lastly, I will share the resolution that Vermont AFL-CIO passed in 2021 in support of Rojava that David briefly referred to. And that's another example in terms of what people could do to support as part of a labor movement here in the US. Okay, any closing comments? Dave, Katie?
It's been an honor to be part of this solidarity, and in the end, I know we will win.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, everyone, for joining today.
Thank you, Namaste Ait. Thank you, Jalil. We want to thank our translator who bared with us with all the technical difficulties and saved our meeting by translating from WhatsApp to Zoom. Thank you so much.
بعد خاطر جهب دوخس مالتا و جاركتن رجعت ببینه خوش وكيل سلافة
امجي وسباس دكي وسلافي كتكاري ما يبقى كرغات السوريا دا جوارا هنا وسكرتن بشكاري ورا.
Also salutations from Rojava for the laborers and workers from Rojava, and wish you all success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.